National Evolutionary Synthesis Center and Understanding Evolution, this is the Evolution in the News story from May 2008. I'm Kristen Jenkins. Octopuses have been studied in the lab for a number of reasons. Because of their well-developed nervous system and brain, octopuses are good study subjects for learning experiments. Their excellent eyesight has also been used as a model system for understanding vision. However, less is known about octopus life in their natural habitats. Dr. Roy Caldwell, professor of integrated biology at the University of California, Berkeley, is going to talk about a recent study on the octopus Octopus aculeatus. Christine Hufford did this research as a graduate student in Dr. Caldwell's lab. She is now a postdoctoral fellow at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. They were studying Octopus aculeatus in its native environment and made some interesting discoveries about unexpected, complex mating behaviors. Here, Dr. Caldwell describes the field research that he and Dr. Hufford did.
Basically, what's involved in studying octopuses is a lot of patience and being in the right place at the right time. Up until these present studies, which were done in the field, most studies on octopus have been done in the laboratory in artificial situations, and they've been done on only a very few species. To do a field study requires a very special kind of octopus. You have to have one that is abundant enough to be able to find. It has to occur in habitats where you actually can spend some time and observe the animals. It helps if the animal is day active. Otherwise, you're out there in the middle of the night and you use lights to try to look at it. The animal will probably respond to the lights, not do anything you want it to. Octopus aculeatus occurs throughout Indonesia and northern Australia. Most of the studies were done on Bunaken Island in northern Sulawesi, but some of the work was also done on Lizard Island in North Queensland, Australia.
Octopus anatomy is a little strange to most of us. It's not obvious how octopuses actually have sex. Dr. Caldwell explains the basics of octopus sex for us.
Basically, octopus transfer a spermatophore or a package of sperm. The male transfers it to the female, inserts it into her mantle cavity, and then into her genital opening. The way he does this is by producing this spermatophore inside of his own mantle cavity and then transfers it to a groove in his third right arm, which is called the hectocotylus. He then inserts his hectocotylus, or his third right arm, into the female's mantle cavity, and a peristaltic wave, or muscular contraction, passes the spermatophore down the length of his arm into her mantle cavity and ultimately into her genital opening.
The discoveries that Dr. Caldwell and Dr. Hufford made are documented in a collection of images. Next, Dr. Caldwell takes us through several of these images and a video from the study describing the behaviors seen in each one.
Yeah, we're still looking at image number 1, which shows a female on the left and a male on the right. The male's third right arm, his hectocotylus, is stretching out towards the female and is actually inserted into her mantle cavity. So right about now there should be a spermatophore being transported from him to her. The second image is a close-up of insertion. What you're seeing is a female, and if you look at about 5 o'clock, there is one arm that comes into the picture, and it has a red or reddish groove. That's actually the groove in the male's mating arm, and he's fully inserted into her mantle cavity, and the red streak actually shows us where the spermatophore is being moved, and it's just about ready to move into her. The third image shows a male with the typical brown stripe display, which indicates his maleness, or the fact that he's a dominant male. Okay, what you're seeing is a female who starts to move away, and the white arm coming in from 9 o'clock is actually the hectocotylus or mating arm of the male, which is inserted. You can see as she moves forward, the male is being dragged along by his mating arm. You can also see in this video the presence of the brown stripes that signal that he is a male, as opposed to the clean or the solid color of the female.
Here, Dr. Caldwell describes the mate guarding and sneaking behaviors in more detail.
Mate guarding. A female settles in a burrow, which is down in the bench of the reef. And a male will come, and if he's going to associate with her, usually dig a burrow, maybe 2 feet away, maximum 1 to 2 feet. That's within one arm's reach of the female. And he'll copulate with her several times and maintain that association, often setting tall, advertising the fact that he's a male. He does that by putting a couple of brown stripes down the front. And it basically says to any other octopus, I'm a male and I'm here and I'm ready to fight, defend this female. That guarding activity can last for just a day or two or as much as 10 days. And during that time, any other male which approaches, the male aggressively attacks and tries to chase off. And if the female needs to go foraging, the guarding male will accompany her, actually often with the hectocotylus arm inserted into her mantle cavity while they're foraging. In terms of sneaking behavior, usually it occurs when there is a large female being guarded by a large male. A small male has no chance of aggressively evicting the big male and gaining access to the female. So the alternative is to assume the guise of a female in both color and texture. This is kind of a tan color, oftentimes with a little papillae on the skin, and move as closely as possible to the female to attempt to copulate with her. If the male were to see this sneaking male, he looks like another female and probably would not be terribly interested. This was successful on several occasions. In one case, the sneaking male did appear as a female to the guarding male, and he attempted to copulate with him.
Finally, Dr. Caldwell explains his interest in this kind of research.
One of the questions that I'm often asked is, why study octopus sex? And it's fun, it's interesting, but it's kind of a strange way to make a living. And what really is important about this study is, because it's a comparative study, and we can look from animal group to animal group, and we see the same behaviors evolving, we can start to look at what's common in the environment and in the behavior that has shaped, evolution has shaped this in a particular way. So we know, for example, that mate guarding is occurring in some species and not in others, and often that has to do with sperm precedence and protecting one's paternity. The other reason that one wants to study these kinds of systems is because they are interesting. And I'm all for people satisfying their curiosity about the complexity of nature. Because if you're interested in an octopus mating or a stomatopod striking or whatever the things I do, then you're probably interested in keeping those animals around and learning more about them. And the best way to do that is to maintain their habitat and make sure that they're here for the next decade and the next century. And anything that we can do to increase public awareness of the need to preserve habitat and preserve these animals, I'm all for.
For more information about this story, including links to primary and popular literature and classroom resources, visit the National Evolutionary Synthesis Center website or the Understanding Evolution website. More stories are available in the Evolution and the News archives on either site. The National Evolutionary Synthesis Center is funded by the National Science Foundation to to promote research in biological evolution.